Thousands of eyes stared down from the high walls, watching. Dust floated in the air, lit by the glow of twin suns above the open ceiling. 100 alien species filled the stands. Warriors, nobles, slaves, guards, and silent judges. X1. Waiting to see blood, in the center of the arena stood two figures. One was a woman. It's an alien warrior of the Zerlin Empire. Body was tall, strong, wrapped in silver armor with glowing symbols etched into the plates. Her violet skin shimmered. With heat, she held a long blade in her hand, sharp enough to split stone. Her face showed no fear, only control. The other figure was a man. A human, he looked out of place. Dirty boots, torn shirt, blood on his cheek. His wrists were bruised, but he stood tall. No armor, no weapon, only his hands, empty, relaxed at his sides. A voice echoed across the arena from a high throne. By order of the council, this human is to be judged by combat. The warrior woman stepped forward, her boots crunching in the dry sand. Her eyes scanned him head to toe. He didn't flinch. You have no blade, she said. He tilted his head, almost smiling. Didn't need one to get here. She raised her sword and pointed it at his chest. The edge gleamed inches from his heart. The crowd held their breath. Any last words? Shh. He leaned slightly closer. His eyes didn't show fear. Yeah. He said, you're holding it wrong. The words hit her like a slap. Her fingers twitched, and in that tiny hesitation he moved, faster than anyone expected. His right hand slapped her wrist, knocking the sword off aim. His left foot swept under hers, pulling her legs out from under her. She fell back, stunned. The sword slipped from her fingers. Before the blade hit the ground, he caught it mid-dash air, and now it was in his hands. The crowd gasped. Some stood. Some shouted. The judges leaned forward in shock. He pointed the blade back at her, but not to strike. Instead, he offered it. The warrior woman blinked up at him. She was still on the ground, armor scraped, pride cracked. He didn't laugh. He didn't mock her. You can take it back, he said quietly. But I think you know I could have ended this? She stared at him. Her chest rose and fell with slow, heavy breaths. Guards along the wall tensed. One stepped forward, ready to fire. But she raised her hand. No, she said. Her voice was soft, but it echoed through the arena. He fought with honor. The guards stopped. The judges whispered among themselves. Confusion spread. She stood up slowly. The dust clung to her armor. She walked toward him and took the sword back. This time with careful fingers. He didn't stop her. She didn't strike, instead. Not just a man, not just a fighter. Something dangerous, something unexpected. What's your name? She asked. He didn't answer. Not at first. Then he wiped the sweat from his brow with the back of his hand. Call me whatever you like. He said, you're the one who just lost. Her lips tightened. Not in anger, thought. This wasn't over. This wasn't a simple fight between warrior and prisoner. Something was wrong, something deeper. She turned and walked away without another word. The gates opened for her. She stepped out. The doors closed behind her. He stood there alone now, but not really alone. Every eye in that arena was still locked on him. Whispers grew louder. Some were in fear, others in interest. One of the judges, a tall alien with glowing horns, leaned to his assistant and whispered, this human is more than he seems. He must not be allowed to walk freely. The assistant nodded. Orders were written, but down in the pit the human stood quietly. He looked up at the twin suns, squinted, and smiled to himself. He didn't come here just to fight. He came with a purpose, and now the first step had been taken. He had defeated a Zerlin warrior in front of the whole council. Now, they would start to fear him, and fear was the weapon he needed most. Asterisk. The walls of the arena hadn't even cooled when her fist slammed against the command table. Captain, Valir the warrior he had beaten stood in the war chamber with clenched teeth. She was no ordinary fighter. She was trained in the Emperor's own circle, born for war, built to win, and she had lost. Jew, a human with no weapon. He humiliated me, she said through gritted teeth. But it wasn't just skill. He knew something. Something about our training, our stances. He moved before I did. The council member sitting across from her was silent, tall, horned, wearing robes of black crystal. Then he spoke, slow and heavy. A lucky trick, perhaps. No, she snapped. That wasn't luck. That was experience. The room fell quiet. Another council member turned toward a glowing screen. It replayed the fight from earlier, frame by frame. The moment the human twisted her wrist, the perfect sweep of her legs, the way he caught the blade like he'd done it 1,000 times. They had watched many warriors. None moved like that. What is his name? The elder asked. The records pulled up unknown. Valera stepped closer. He's hiding his identity. The council elder's eyes narrowed. Then find out who trained him and why he's here. Deep beneath the arena in the prisoner quarters, he sat on a steel bench. No chains, no guards in the room, only cameras. Watching him from every angle, he ignored them. Sat like he was on vacation, arms behind his head, staring at the cracked ceiling. A low hiss echoed through the hallway. The door slid open. She walked in. The same warrior woman he had knocked to. The ground, her silver armor was gun replaced by a black cloak. Her sword was at her side, but her hands were open. He didn't stand. Just glanced at her. Back for revenge? She ignored the bait. You knew how I'd strike, she said. Cute countered like you'd seen my training before. He shrugged. Maybe I have. Her eyes narrowed. Our combat style is only taught in royal units. No human has ever seen it. He leaned forward, his voice low. Maybe your people should have kept it more secret. For a second, she froze. Then she walked slowly to the center of the room. They want me to fight you again, publicly. To prove it was a mistake, he raised a brow. You think I'll lose the second time? She stared at him, long and hard. No, she said. That's why I'm here. He sat up straighter. I want to know the truth, she continued. Who are you? He said nothing. So she reached into her cloak and dropped something on the bench. A small silver chip, glowing. He looked at it. For the first time, his smile faded. She saw it. That means something to you? She whispered. Still? He said nothing. She picked it up and pressed it into a slot on the wall. A hologram flared to life. An image appeared. Earth-burned cities. Broken. Skies black. Then a logo one used by the Zirlan Empire during occupation. He stood slowly. His voice was quiet, but every word felt heavy. That was my home. Before your empire turned it to ash. She turned toward the screen, stunned. That can't be real. We were told Earth fell from civil war. He looked straight into her eyes. No, Earth fell because you bombed it. She stepped back, shaken. If that's true, she said, why? Come here alone. He looked down at his hand. Burn scars ran across his knuckles. Because I'm not here to fight one warrior, he said. I'm here to take your empire apart one lie at a time. She didn't move, didn't breathe. This wasn't about pride. Anymore, it was about truth. And she had just stepped into something far darker than she expected. He stepped closer, his voice dropping. You're not my enemy, he said. But if you get in my way, I won't go easy next time. She looked up at him, and for the first time in her life, she didn't know what side she was on anymore. The sky over the capital city pulsed red as defense beacons turned for the night. Ships floated above like silent predators. Streets below were quiet, too quiet for a city that never slept. But inside the old council building, under 3 layers of scam-proof walls, a secret meeting was already happening. She entered through a side door. No armor, no escort. Just a black cloak and a name that still gave her power Valera. First blade of the Zirlan Order? The guards didn't stop her. They didn't even look up. How secret this meeting was. And that's how dangerous the man waiting inside was becoming. He was standing by the window when she walked in, calm, watching the stars. You were followed, he said, not turning around. No, she replied. I made sure, he gave a soft laugh. They trained you well. You should be dead. He turned to her now. You had your chance. She stepped forward, but not aggressively. I didn't come to fight, he nodded, because you're not sure who your enemy is anymore? She said nothing. He walked past her to the middle of the room. The lights flickered. There was a table between them now. He opened his palm and placed something on the surface, a thin shard of crystal. Her eyes widened. She knew what it was. A command key, she whispered. He nodded. Taken from your High Command's data vault 3 days ago. You infiltrated the vault? She asked, stunned. No, he said. Someone gave it to me. She blinked. Who? He smiled faintly. Someone who doesn't want genocide hidden behind royal robes anymore. Valera felt the air grow heavier. She picked up the crystal and scanned it with her portable reader. Files appeared, restricted logs, communications, war orders, and at the center of it, OLA mission report. Earth. Class X resource colony. Status. Active harvesting. Her knees almost buckled. They told us Earth was destroyed. It wasn't, he said. It was farmed. She looked up at him, voice breaking. You came here to destroy us. Walked slowly around the table. No, I came here to end this war. But I need help. From someone inside. She stared at the files, then at him. If I help you, she whispered, they'll strip me of rank. I'll be hunted. He didn't blink, and stay on their side. Obey. Be safe. His words cut deep, not because they were cruel, but because they were true. She stepped away, trying to breathe. Then she turned. What do you need from me? His voice lowered. There's a transport leaving in 2 days. On board is something the council built in secret. A prototype weapon. Her heart pounded. Biological. He nodded. They call it the Equalizer. It was made for one purpose, wiping out Earth's survivors in a single strike. She shook her head. This is impossible. If what you're saying is true, it is, he interrupted. And I don't have time to convince you. She looked at the crystal again. The data was real. The mission logs were signed by people she knew trusted. I can get you on that transport, she said at last. He nodded, but after that, she added, we're not allies. He tilted. His head, no. We're a blade and a target, she said, and we'll see who breaks first. He smiled. Then make sure you hold it right this time. She walked toward the door, but before leaving, she stopped. One last thing. She said, why did you let me live in the arena? He looked her in the eyes. Because I saw something, he said. What? He turned back to the window. A crack in your armor. The door closed behind her, and for the first time in her life, Valera didn't know whose victory would mean peace, hers or his asterisk. The second moon hovered low over the silent jungle beyond the capital, casting a silver glow across the trees. Wind whispered through the leaves like a warning. The night looked combat. It was a mask. He moved quickly between shadows, careful not to leave footprints on the path. Every 20 steps he stopped, listened, scanned. His tracker was off. His signal was scrambled. Still, he knew someone might be watching, and they were. From the high branches of a tree behind him, Valera crouched, completely still. Her cloak blended with the darkness. She had followed him from the underground transport line where they said goodbye. He had lied. He wasn't heading back to the hideout. He was going somewhere secret, and she needed to know why. He finally reached a hidden entrance buried under moss and stone. It was old pre-council tech. Few even knew it existed, but he did. He tapped a sequence into a cracked keypad. The door opened with a soft hiss, and he slipped inside. Valera dropped silently to the ground and followed, her hand on her weapon. Inside, the air was colder. Ancient lights flickered on as he moved through narrow tunnels. Old banners still hung. From the wall, symbols of fallen empires. She had only seen them in history logs. He entered a room lit by a single yellow lamp. In the center stood a tall, figure-hooded bent. Older Valera held her breath. He wasn't alone. The older alien stepped forward and placed something in his hand. A chip. They've moved the prototype, the old one said. 2 days ahead of schedule. You'll have to act tomorrow. Can you disable the tracking beacons? He asked. The old man nodded, but it'll draw attention. They'll know someone's inside the chain. Then we'll burn the chain, he replied. Valera's fingers trembled around her sword. The man, the human, had another contact inside. The council. And he hadn't told her. Why? She stepped forward too fast. A stone shifted under her boot. The noise echoed down the tunnel. Both men turned. In a second he had his weapon drawn. Not a gun, just a small blade, fast in his hand. "Who's there?" called Silence. Then she stepped into the light, eyes hard. "You lied to me." His shoulders dropped when he saw it was her. "Valera, you said I was your only contact." She snapped. "You said we were doing this together. I needed to protect you," he said. "The fewer people that knew, that's not trust." She cut in. "That's control." The older alien backed away. "She can't be here." "If the council finds out, I won't tell them," Valera said, still staring at the human. "Not yet." His jaw clenched. "Then why did you follow me?" She stepped closer, the blade at her side. "Because I wanted to believe you." He looked away. "The council lied to me my whole life," she said. "And now you're doing the same." "It wasn't a lie," he said. "It was strategy. I didn't expect you to stay after you saw the truth." "Well," she said, voice cold, "you were wrong." She took the chip from his hand and held it up. "This," she said, "goes through me now. If you want to stop that weapon, you need me." He looked at her for a long moment, his eyes heavy with history. "Then let's move," he said at last. "We hit them before sunrise." She nodded. But deep inside, she still didn't know if she trusted him. And he didn't know if she should. Back in the capital, alarms quietly pulsed inside the military grid. One of the data chips had been accessed. The council moved fast. In the central tower, a female counselor watched the signal flicker. "Who accessed this file?" she asked. A guard stepped forward, Valera and the human. She smiled thinly. "Then they've taken the bait." Below her, locked deep inside a vault, the real prototype remained untouched, and what Valera held in her hand was a decoy. The rain hit hard as they reached the edge of the launch yard. Dark steel towers rose from the ground like broken teeth, and floodlights swept across the soaked platform. Cargo ships stood on standby, engines humming low, ready for departure. Valera crouched behind a supply crate, her cloak dripping. Across from her, the human wiped water from his eyes and studied the patrols. "You're sure this is the one?" she asked, voice low. He nodded. "Dock 9. That's where they're moving in." She glanced at the chip again, now inside her scanner. The data glowed entry codes, internal paths, thermal maps. But something still felt wrong. "It's too clean," she whispered. He looked at her. "What do you mean? This data, it's not just recent, it's perfect. No redirections, no false logs. Like someone wanted us to see it." He frowned but said nothing. The thunder above cut through the silence. Still, they moved, because even if it was a trap, the weapon might still be real, and if they didn't try, billions could die. They slipped through the outer gates. Valera disabled one guard with a silent pulse blade to the neck. The human knocked out another with a blow to the side of the head. Clean, quick, efficient. Inside Dock 9. The cargo bay stretched out like a metallic canyon. Crates were stacked high. Single container sat alone in the center, sealed with high-level biometric locks. "That's it," he said, breath low. They ran to it, water trailing their boots. Valera inserted her override key, and the locks disengaged one by one. A hiss. Flicker of light, the door opened, and inside was nothing. No weapon. No tech. Just a single chair. A camera facing forward, and on the wall, a red message flashing. "We see you." Valera backed away. Alarms exploded from every side. Lights turned red. Doors slammed shut across the dock. He cursed, pulled out a scrambler. "They knew we're coming." "We walked into it," Valera growled. Played right into their hands. Then came the voice, echoing through the intercom. "Captain Valera, human invader, you are both charged with high treason." It was the council's voice, cold, controlled. "Stay where you are, or lethal force will be used." Valera gritted her teeth and grabbed his arm. "We're not staying." They sprinted to the side tunnel. Doors slammed behind them. Turrets dropped from the ceiling. He rolled and fired his last EMP bolt enough to fry the nearest trap. Valera used her blade to slice open a wall panel and crawled through the shaft. He followed close, hands scraped and bloody. Behind them, boots thundered ahead, smoke and sparks. They kept moving. By the time they reached the abandoned metro tunnel, both were breathless. Valera collapsed against the wall. The human leaned on a steel beam, coughing. "This was your plan?" she said between breaths. "Run into a trap and get us killed?" "I didn't know," he said. "They fed us false data." Her voice cracked. "Then why did we trust it?" He didn't answer, because deep down, he knew. Because he wanted to believe someone on the inside still cared. But somewhere in the council, a conscience remained. But now, they were fugitives. Together, Valera took off her cloak and threw it aside. Her armor was scratched, her face bruised. She looked at him not as an enemy now, but as someone who had nothing left to lose. "Was raised to believe in honor," she said quietly. "That our empire stood for order and justice." He didn't speak. She looked away. They lied. He stepped forward. "Now you know why I came here. I should have killed you in the arena," she whispered. "You still can," he replied. She shook her head. "No, I think you're the only one who knows what honor looks like anymore." They sat in silence for a moment. Rain still echoing above, she broke it. "What do we do now?" He looked at her, tired but calm. "We find the real weapon, expose the council. But this time, no more trusting shadows." She nodded. "No more. Secrets between us." He extended his hand. "Partners." She hesitated, then took it. Their alliance had started with a blade. Now it was forged by betrayal, and the war was just beginning. Asterisk, the mountain base wasn't on any map. It was built before the empire existed, buried under stone, surrounded by dead valleys, protected by myths of radiation and monsters. No one dared go near it, but that's exactly where they were headed. Valera sat behind the controls of the stolen scout pod, his hands steady, eyes locked on the storm clouds ahead. The human sat beside her, silent, bruised, reading the layout of the vault from a cracked display pad. "This place," she said, voice tight. "Why would they keep the real weapon here?" He didn't look up, because they didn't want anyone, not even the council, to know what they made. She stared through the cracked cockpit glass. "This is beyond war." He nodded slowly. "Ash! This is extinction science." They landed in silence. The wind howled outside, biting cold and laced with dust. The entrance to the vault looked like a collapsed mine rocks piled high, sealed shut by time. But Valera knew the trick. Her fingers tapped the side of a stone, unlocking a hidden panel beneath layers of debris. She placed her palm on it, scanned her DNA. The old machine groaned to life. Stone shifted, metal scraped. A hidden passage opened into blackness. They entered. The tunnels below smelled of old chemicals and power coils. Lights flickered as if they hadn't been touched in 100 years. Strange markings covered the wall symbols from before the empire, from before her people even walked the stars. Every step they took echoed too loud. Then came the hum, deep, low, alive. He stopped at the next chamber. Ahead stood rows of capsules, glass chambers lined up like tombs. Inside them floated beings, children, human children. Valera stepped forward, her heart racing. Their faces were pale, unconscious, their bodies marked with surgical threads and glowing data tags. They were alive, but barely. "What? What is this?" she whispered. He didn't speak. She turned to him. "You knew?" "Suspected," he said, voice cold. "This is why I came." One of the capsules lit up. A name blinked across the top. Subject: LEXO5 age, 9 origin, Earth purpose, neural mapping for weapon. Coravellere backed away. Her hand trembled on her sword. "They're using children," she said, breath shallow, "for targeting systems." He nodded. "The weapon they're building it needs a mind that can learn and obey without question." She looked around. The room again. There were dozens of capsules, dozens of lives stolen. A screen behind them flickered to life. A recording began. It was the High Counselor. His voice echoed cold and clear. If you are seeing this, you have found the core of Project Equalizer. These subjects are not children. They are keys, designed to be installed into biotech warforms, trained to locate rebellion before it breathes. Valera stepped forward and slammed her sword through the screen. Sparks flew. The voice died. She turned to him. "You shut this down now." He walked toward a control panel at the far wall. The interface was ancient but still working. He accessed the emergency release protocols. The screen asked for dual code confirmation. He looked at her. Her voice shook. "You want to let them out?" "Not just them," he said. "What the galaxy, to see what this empire really is." She hesitated. "If we open these, we can't hide anymore. We'll be hunted." He looked into her eyes. "We're already hunted. Let's give them a reason to be afraid." She stepped beside him. Entered her code. The doors began unlocking, one by one. The capsules hissed open. Children blinked awake, weak, confused, breathing. She moved to one, kneeling. A girl with tangled hair and wide eyes stared at her. Valera removed her mask. "You're safe now," she said softly. "No one will hurt you again." But even as the girl reached for her, alarms began to ring. Red lights flooded the chamber. "They're coming," he said. "How long do we have? 5 minutes? Maybe less." Valera picked up the child in her arms. "Hey, then we don't run. We defend." The human stepped beside her, raising the only weapon he had left. 2 rebels, dozens of children. One entrance, and the Empire's full force coming for them. The blast doors were melting outside. Armored boots pounded across the vaults, stone floor soldiers shouting commands, weapons charged. Dozens of elite enforcers were closing in. Inside, the human stood at the last defense line, holding a plasma rifle he barely had power for. Behind him, Valera crouched beside the freed children, wrapping a heat blanket around the smallest one. "You still with me?" he asked without turning. Valera rose slowly, eyes locked on the melting steel. "Until my last breath." A loud boom shook the vault. The last lock was burning. They had maybe 30 seconds left. "We can't fight them all," she said. "Not like this." He nodded, calm. "Then we make sure someone survives." She frowned. "What are you thinking?" He pulled a small device from his vest, a signal transmitter. Ancient but powerful. "This beacon sends a data burst to every ship, station, and colony within 10 systems," he said. "Once it goes out, they'll see the truth, what the Council's hiding, what they've done to these kids." She blinked. "That will expose you." He smiled faintly. "We're past hiding, aren't we?" The steel groaned again. Fire spilled through the cracks. Valera stepped beside him. "Then we both press it." They each placed a finger on the transmitter. 1 second of silence. Then the beacon lit up. A soft, high-pitched pulse filled the air. The message was gone. Sent, unstoppable. And that was when the doors exploded. They came like a storm. Council soldiers in full armor poured in, shouting commands, weapons raised. The human fired first short bursts to stall them, never aiming to kill. Valera rushed the left side, her blade a silver blur. She didn't fight for the Empire now. She fought against it. Behind them, the children huddled close, eyes wide, silent. Smoke filled the air, sparks rained from the ceiling. The human took a hit to the shoulder, grunted, but stayed standing. He reloaded, covered Valera as she knocked a guard unconscious. But there were too many. They were being surrounded. A voice echoed through the chamber, familiar and cruel. "You think the galaxy will believe your lies?" said the High Counselor. "Stepping through the fire, you are a traitor. She is worse." Valera turned to face him, her blade pointed down. "No more lies," she said. "You betrayed your blood." "No," she answered. "I found my soul." The counselor raised his weapon. But before he could fire, a new sound broke through the chaos. Ships, dozens of them. Outside, then, explosions. Something was attacking the soldiers from behind. A moment. Later, a small screen near the vault flashed a message, "Incoming transmission civilian vessels. Encrypted burst received." The message from the beacon had worked. Across the systems, rogue ships, rebel fighters, and old allies had seen the proof and they had come. The guards inside panicked. Some ran, some dropped their weapons. The counselor shouted, "Hold the line." But the line was already gone. The human looked at Valera. She smiled through smoke and blood. "You brought a war to their doorstep." He nodded, and they left the door open. Minutes later, when the dust finally settled, the vault stood silent again. Soldiers were gone, the children safe. The sky above burned with fire from distant dogfights, but the center held. Valera knelt beside a child who had a burn on her arm and whispered softly, "It's over." The human sat down beside the last wall, bleeding but alive. She looked at him. "You still have that smile?" He wiped dirt from his face. "Might be the last one I get to use." "You'll live," she said. "You're too stubborn to die." Outside, the sound of rebel ships landing echoed. Medics came running in. Fighters, former enemies. Now witnesses. Someone handed Valera a transmitter. "The entire galaxy's watching," the voice said. "They want a message." She looked at the camera battered, standing among children rescued from death. She said only one thing: "The Empire ends here." Weeks later, the war had shifted. Worlds rose in rebellion. Councils fell. Truth spread like wildfire. The humans stood on the balcony of a rebuilt command ship, watching children play in the gardens below. Their laughter echoed through the halls. Valera stepped beside him in her new arm, no longer zero line, but something new, symbol of both bloodlines, both worlds. "They offered you command," she said. "I'm not a general," he replied. "No," she said. "You're something worse. A symbol." He smirked. "Still think I held the sword wrong?" She chuckled. "No, I think I was holding my beliefs wrong." He looked at her. "I'm glad you changed sides." "I didn't," she said. "Just finally saw who the real enemy was." He stood there, side by side, not as human and alien, but as two warriors who had chosen the harder path. And because of that choice, the galaxy would never be the same.